Yeah, so we had a short interruption, but it all around leads or represents a very everyday situation, as we could say. It's basically just a couple, an American couple, staying at a hotel in their vacation. So it's something we all do. It's not very unique, you might say, for a short story when you want to entertain the reader. Just a very everyday situation, which also another modernist feature. Yeah.
You can use example in line 20.
Yeah. I'll read out loud. The American wife stood at the window looking out. Outside, right under the window, a cat was crouched under one of the dripping green tables. The cat was trying to make herself so compact that she would not be dripped on. "I'm going down and get that kitty," the American wife said. "I'll do it," her husband offered from the bed. "No, I'll get it," the poor kitty out trying to keep dry under the table. The husband went on reading, just propped up with the two pillows at the foot of the bed. So basically we just have this very common situation. The wife is looking out the window and the husband is on the bed reading a book. Yeah.
It's like if this should be some kind of climax, or not climax, but like what's called driving through, is like what the story takes place about. This cat in the rain. It's not something.
It's not very dramatic.
Dramatic, exactly. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So and basically what.
That's the plot.
Yeah.
It's just the plot. Story.
The modernist futures or the realistic futures, they like to have this very common situation and then an iceberg structure, which means that we only see the top, we only see the top layer of the story. So we see some people walking around doing their things, but then underneath there's a lot that you could interpret and analyze and so on. So you could also say there are gaps in the story. For example, in this story, we hear about a cat that's crouching underneath a green table outside. But then later in this story, when the maid, it's in the end of the story actually, the last lines, when the maid returns with a cat, we're actually not sure if it's the same cat, and I think that, or we think that Ernest Hemingway actually thought about this when he wrote it. So basically it says, "Avanti," George said. He looked out from his book. In the doorway stood the maid. She held a big tortoise-shell cat pressed tight against her and swung down against her body. Excuse me," she said. "The padrone asked me to bring this for Signora." So basically, Ernest Hemingway used to, the A, so it's no cat in particular, whereas, it would have been, much easier to just use the if it was the same cat, which would make the more sense. And then, the question is then, what role does the cat have in the whole short story? Basically, you could see the wife as the cat crouching in the rain.
Not so comfortable. Like in a cage or.
Not really knowing what to do with herself and
the rain.
Yeah.
This kind of ending is very typical for a modernist story. You can see it in the public mechanics when these two parents are tearing apart the baby, and we don't get to know if the baby is getting killed or what's going on with the baby at last. And so also in the story, they are not your husband. At the end with the check, or what's called, with the check, she's we don't know if she's total up the check. We don't know if she's gonna break up with him or what's going on. It's very typical for the modernist. In the ending is very easy to interpret it yourself, making your own ending.
so basically, you could say that the American wife is somewhat the main character of the story because it's her that we follow through the, you know, the dramatic things.
The plot.
Yeah, the plot. And we actually have this kind of development for her, you could say. So in the beginning, Ernest actually describes her as the American woman. But the thing is, this woman, she's very, very, she's childish and uncomfortable.
And childish, indeed.
So she, and you know, her husband is just on the bed reading, having a, you know, a good time. But she's hard to satisfy, you could say. And she wants all these different things, so she runs around the hotel in order to get a cat, which is very unusual behavior on a hotel, you could say. Also, they're on a hotel that's right next to a war monument.
Also, all these things make us question ourselves. Is the husband the bad husband, or is the wife the bad wife? It's like, oh, the husband is not paying attention, but would you pay attention if your girl or your wife is asking for all these things that you can't get? Is it the wife or the husband that is having the bad manners?
Yeah, and when we say she wants all these things, for example, in line 108, she says, "And I want to eat at a table with my own silver, and I want candles, and I want it to be spring, and I wanted to brush my hair out in front of a mirror, and I want a kitty, and I want some new clothes." So not only does she want a lot of things that is very immature of her when she's with her husband, but also it's very childish language. It's very repetitive, colloquial. Of course, it's you know, direct speech, but yeah, it's very
one sentence leads to another one. It's like, I want this, I want that, I want this, and also she said, I want it to be spring. Just a childish thing to say because it's impossible to give.
So back to the development of the wife. So in the beginning, she's the American wife, but then later on, as she walks past the hotel keeper, the hotel keeper, she's actually referred to as the American girl in line 70. So it's actually quite fun because she all thinks that she's the center of all the things that's happening, but to be honest, they treat every customer of the hotel the same way.
That might be it. Thank you, Matthias. Have a nice day.